So I have not done this in almost a year, more than a year, I think. But I realized I need to start doing this again because I find it very interesting and I need to stop writing and start talking about it because I'm just writing about it a lot and not at all learning to speak about it. And I was recommended that I should be learning to talk about it. So this article is from Indian Express. It's from first week of March, written by Sonia Gandhi. Talks about government's silence on killing of Iran leader is not neutral, it's abdication. Now this is where it gets interesting. India's ties with Israel have in recent years expanded across defense, agriculture, and technology. It is precisely because India maintains relations with both Tehran and Tel Aviv that it possesses diplomatic space to urge a restraint, but such space depends on credibility. Credibility, in turn, rests
In all
on the
the past
perception that
crises,
India
from
speaks
Gulf War
from
to Yemen
principle rather than
to Iraq and
expediency.
Syria, India's ability to
This
safeguard
is
its
not
citizens
merely a
has
moral
rested
proposition,
on
it
its
is a
credibility.
strategic
As an
necessity. Nearly 10
independent
million
actor,
Indians
not as
live
a proxy.
and work
That
across the Gulf.
credibility does not emerge by accident. India's post-independence foreign policy was shaped by non-alignment, not as passive neutrality, but as a conscious assertion of strategic autonomy. It was a refusal to become subsumed into the rivalries of great powers. This present moment raises uncomfortable questions about whether that posture is being diluted. An uncritical silence in face of unilateral military action by the power states looks like a retreat from that principle, and in effect, an abandonment of our legacy. The targeted killing of foreign head of state, erosion of international norms, and widened instability in West Asia are not peripheral matters. They touch directly upon India's strategic interests and moral containments. A clear articulation of India's position is overdue, democratic accountability demands no less, and strategic clarity requires it. India has long invoked the ideal of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one big family. The civilization ethos is not a slogan for ceremonial diplomacy. It implies commitment to justice, restraint, and dialogue, even when doing so is inconvenient. So, this article is approximately 6 minute 40 seconds read, and it leans heavily towards appreciating the Congress government. She has not named it anywhere, but she was trying to lean heavily towards appreciating the previous government, the opposition, and defaulting the current government for its inaction and acting on the directions of the superpowers, which is not completely wrong. I completely acknowledge the fact that being a democratic country, we not taking stand on blatant killing of leader of a country while the war is not even being declared as a big problem. The fact that this has escalated, like we are, I think, in 20 plus days of the war currently, and war, we can call it war, I think, because the energy sources are being destroyed and more countries are lining up to join the war that is going on. More people are being died. Recently, Iran's energy sources were blasted and destroyed. The Hormuz Strait is completely blocked. At least India is facing crisis of energy resources. The oil barrels have gotten, I think, 150 per barrel, which is bad, which means oil prices are going to rise, which means the inflation is going to rise, which means that the money is going to lose its value. That is how much it impacts just India. It's not just India, the entire world is being impacted. It's being impacted because countries are not standing up against the bully countries, which is basically US and Israel, which started this mess in the first place. If countries wanted to fight their war, they should have just taken their war and fought it in themselves. Why involve the citizens? UN at this point is less than useless, so there is no point talking about UN. We are here seeing classic strategic partnership of US and Israel. Although Israel last week in an article, in an interview, mentioned that it did not ask for US's involvement or help, so whatever US is doing, it's on their own account. But it's pointless to have this argument again. Now, I'm not going to talk about how poorly Indian government is performing and how they should have actually reacted and behaved in the situation, because they are technically they are being very submissive to the leading superpowers right now. Although I won't call Israel a superpower, but US is definitely a superpower. Russia has been almost neutralized because it has completely exhausted its resources in its Ukraine war. So it cannot afford to get involved in war that is happening with other countries, which involves USA. So now Russia is neutralized. China is for some reason just exploiting the situation because it has increased its prices of resources, it has increased prices of everything, it's just benefiting from this war. And well, there's that China has always been very business minded, and this is not about China. This is about, what is this about exactly? This is about one thing that I really liked about this article was the fact that being a democratic country, being a country which has been propagating the idea of uh, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which is we are one big family, which is, by the way, a big fat lie. We are not. But the fact that, forget about that, but we are definitely a democracy, and we have proudly been the owners of non-aligned movement of India. We were the perpetrators of it, right? And even though I find the policy of non alignment to be too weak as well, I don't think non alignment is a very strong stance in itself. It's basically not taking anyone's side. But it still had its own weightage because they did not passively agree with whatever the leaders of the powerful countries were telling you to agree with. Like, the leader of USA has clearly bullied most of the countries, be it in be it in American continent, be it in European continent, and definitely be it in South. The only country that I saw in past year that US was not able to believe was actually China. Russia, I did not even get bothered with because I think Russia is really heavily, thoroughly compromised because I do not see Russia anywhere in this entire setup. So yes, US has been bullying everyone ever since Trump's this thing second election, second term, final term. God help me. I really hope he has brain cancer because it does not explain what he's doing. So, whatever. There's loss of everything is down right now. Oil is more expensive, all the resources are expensive, and they are scarce. Price of all the stocks have fallen thoroughly, heavily. Like now, last time I checked, it was, I think, showing 74,000 around end of February. 74,000 it was showing. Right now it's much lower. It drops every fucking day. It's not rising only. In middle of this entire situation, gold and silver were still rising. They've again fallen. They're not rising anymore. So happy birthday. And that is an economic aspect. People who are rich are going to get away with it for most parts. They will, although it's a big issue because Dubai has been a big sufferer in this entire thing. As the bombing started in Dubai, people who were actually migrating to Dubai from all around the world because of its really lenient policies for outsiders, so they can stay and do business there, especially the startups. They are running away from there. I think I read in an article that most of them are preferring US benefits. US again. I have no idea. The problem is, I'm not coming to the point. See, this is why I need to speak about it because I am really mixing everything up. I'm not coming to the point. So the problem is not economic, like economic problem is definitely there, but the problem is governance of the country, the international governance of the country, where our government cannot take a respectful stand, where it can just unite like-minded countries and oppose and stand up to the bully countries and tell them to stop the war. I especially like the point that India has a strategic diplomatic advantage with both Iran and Israel, so it is actually capable of taking a stand. But that's the point. If your leader has to be, I don't imagine if Nehru or Indira Gandhi. See, again, this sounds like a Congress versus BJP narrative. I really don't care about the parties. I care about the fact that if a leader is strong enough, powerful enough to go out there and talk diplomatic. I don't know. I don't know how this works, how leaders interact with each other, but you gotta have some leverage as a 75, 76 year old democracy, man. You stand in pride and you claim that this and that, but what am I talking? My sole point is that India's silence in blatant killing of an international leader, not an international leader actually, a country's leader. Can you imagine Donald Trump being assassinated and the world would get to exist as it is? Because it will not. They'll put the world on fire. So, my point is, why is this so convenient for Western countries to assassinate the Gulf leaders that easily? Just, I don't know. And there's no idea what is going on, because initial reports were that US wanted their own leader to be on the top. They wanted their own leader to sit on the throne. That's why they got Khamenei killed. Fine, where is that fucking leader? The war is not stopping only. It's like they've converted. What do you want? You want to just finish the entire Gulf area? They fight and they fucking die. And what do you do with that resources? That is that because they're destroying the resource also. No, I cannot even conclude that this is for resource preservation or resource gathering that US is doing this. So my point is that being that supporting countries that are killing the country leaders openly without accountability, that too when the war was not on, they were in between negotiations. It's insane. So that's a problem. I agree with Sonia Gandhi on certain points, but I'm not endorsing anything. Nobody cares because it's just me. I'm going to listen to this later. But that's not the point. The point is, yes, I don't know what the point is.